Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Fight Night Noche Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2 for the Women's Flyweight Championship. And this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. And this card is still really solid, but this card really fell apart, losing a lot of key fights like Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kelvin Gastelum. You had Cortez versus Anthony Hernandez. But the card is still very solid for a fight night card. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Josefine Knutsson versus Marnic. Mann stepping in on short notice. She does not belong in the UFC at all. She's 6-1 overall. She fought on Dana White's Contender Series 2 fights ago against Bruno Brazil. Got brutally head kick KO'd. Her striking looked horrible in that fight. She really just wants to grapple. She won her next fight in LFA against a girl who's 7-6. You're looking at the fight before the loss. She had a split decision win over a girl who was 1-1. I think Knutsson much better, even though just as inexperienced. She's 6-0, undefeated. I got a decent win on Dana White's Contender Series. Showed off her striking, showed off her takedown defense. And I have to go with Josefine Knutsson. I don't think Mann belongs in the UFC at all. And I think Knutsson is just such a better striker. It looks like Mann is being forced at gunpoint to strike. She looks horrible on the feet. She only got this opportunity because of a last-minute cancellation, and a lot of fights on this card got canceled. The UFC kind of scrambled together. And they said, oh, let's bring in Marnic Mann to be, sacrificed to Knutsson. I think Knutsson is so much better. I think she'll be able to defend the takedowns. And I think Mann will get some exchanges where she ends up in the clinch. Knutsson's very good in the clinch, landing short elbows, landing some dirty boxing. I think Knutsson's going to beat her up pretty badly. And I'm actually going to go, it's very rare I pick a women's MMA fight to end by stoppage. I'm going Josefine Knutsson via second round TKO. I just think Mann's striking is so atrocious. There's no way she doesn't get finished. And I think maybe in the first round, Knutsson's going to be a little bit worried about the takedown. But I think she's going to beat her up, win the first round pretty clear. Second round, catch her with a big shot as she's coming in, and then finish her off with ground and pound. Second round TKO, Josefine Knutsson. Moving up on the card, another short notice fight. We have Charlie Campbell versus Alex Reyes. Alex Reyes hasn't fought in almost 6 years. The last time he fought, Mike Perry was in the UFC. And he took that fight on short notice. He was actually in the co-main event of a fight night, believe it or not. And you look at his last few fights before that, we're talking 6 years ago, 8 years ago. 3 fights ago was 8 years ago for Alex Reyes. It's hard to trust a guy that hasn't fought in that long. And, this is one of those fights that genuinely could go either way because we don't know how good Alex Reyes has gotten in the time off. He looked okay against Mike Perry, but that was 6 years ago. I mean, what are we supposed to take away from that? He showed decent striking, okay grappling in that fight, but he got finished by Mike Perry. You're looking at Charlie Campbell, who got a win in his last fight via KO, TKO, against a guy who's 9-5. Fight before that lost on Dana White's Contender Series against Chris Duncan, who's looked pretty good in the UFC, and Charlie Campbell was winning that fight. He was smashing Duncan, and then he got overconfident and got clipped and finished. I just don't see how I can pick Alex Reyes, even though Campbell is the one coming in on short notice, just knowing that he hasn't won a fight in 6 years, but he might have evolved. He might have gotten better. He's not, I was going to say he's not that old, but he's 36 years old. I thought he was like 33. He's 36 years old. He's got a reach advantage of a half an inch. He's got a slight height disadvantage. I just think he's going to get beaten up on the feet. Charlie Campbell's a very good striker, has killer instinct, has decent power. But I think he's going to be a little bit nervous because he's gotten this call up on short notice. He got clipped in the Duncan fight, which lost him a UFC contract because he almost finished Duncan, but he just got overzealous. So I'm going to go Charlie Campbell, second round TKO. I can't pick Reyes at 36 years old, coming off a 6-year layoff. And, the fact that he hasn't won in over 6 years, which is even crazier. His last fight, obviously, was the loss to Mike Perry, which was 5 years, 11 months ago. But, you're talking, this is straight up insanity. You're talking 3 fights in 8 years. 3 fights in 8 years. That is straight up insanity. We're talking 2015 was 3 fights ago for Alex Reyes. I'm going Charlie Campbell, second round TKO. Hurts him on the feet, swarms him, eventually drops him and finishes him. I have to pick Charlie Campbell in this fight. Moving up on the card, we have Tracy Cortez versus Jasudavicius. Tracy Cortez has been out for a little bit. She hasn't fought in about 1 year and 4 months. Her last fight was against Melissa Gatto, which was a very competitive fight. Doesn't have a lot of great wins on her resume. I know a lot of people like to hype up Tracy Cortez, because you have simps for Tracy Cortez, but she's really never showed a really high level of skill. Jasudavicius hasn't fought the best level of competition, but she fought Miranda Maverick in the last fight and looked pretty good in that fight. Fight before that, Gabriel Fernandez, got a win there. She does have a loss, but it's against Natalia Silva. That's not a horrible loss to have in the division. Both girls, I feel like they kind of both want to grapple, but I think Jasudavicius has better striking. She has good cardio. She's relentless pressing forward. She has decent jiu-jitsu. We saw her reverse Miranda Maverick, control Miranda Maverick. Tracy Cortez, she likes to get you down, hold you down. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage with it, though. And she's been out for a while. Jasudavicius is 34 years old, which does worry me a bit, where Cortez is only 29. Similar height, 3-inch reach advantage for Jasudavicius. But I'm going to go Jasudavicius via decision. I don't think Tracy Cortez is going to be able to just go out there, take her down, and hold her down. And we've seen Tracy Cortez end up in bad positions on the ground against Melissa Gatto. She was able to reverse them, but she gave up her back multiple times. I think if she gives up her back and she gives up advantageous positions on the ground to Jasudavicius, she'll be able to hold them. And also she has very good cardio to keep throwing shots on the ground, to keep moving forward. And Tracy Cortez has slowed down in fights in the third round. And we've seen Jasudavicius take it to Miranda Maverick in the third round of her last fight. So I'm going Jasudavicius. I'm going to say 29-28 decision, but I think it's going to be pretty clear for Jasudavicius. Maybe Cortez gets the first round. Moving up on the card, we have Edgar Cháirez versus Daniel Lacerda. Daniel Lacerda has lost his last 4 fights, but don't let that fool you. He's actually a very good fighter, and this is actually going to be a banger of a fight. This is great matchmaking by the UFC. Daniel Lacerda lost to CJ Vergara in his last fight. He's the one that had CJ Vergara pulling a Chelsea Chandler before Chelsea Chandler even pulled a Chelsea Chandler, but then he gassed out looking for the finish. Fight before that, lost to Victor Altamirano, was having some success there, ends up getting clipped and hurt himself. Francisco Figueiredo was having some success there, takes him down, ends up in a knee bar, just makes a mistake on the ground. Fight before that got clipped and countered by Jeff Molina and KO'd. So even though he's on a 4-fight losing streak, he's looked decent in all those fights to start it out, and then he's just end up losing those fights. Cháirez made his UFC debut in his last fight against Tatsuro Taira. Jumped a lot of guillotines in that fight. Jumped a lot of guillotines and had a guillotine that was very tight in the third round. And had the clock not expired, he might have submitted Tatsuro Taira. So as much as we were making fun of him for pulling guillotines, he almost had it in the third round, ended up in a mounted guillotine as the third round ended. Both guys have really good striking. Both guys are very powerful. Both guys are very fast. Cháirez was dropping Taira in his last fight, but Taira doesn't have the best striking. This is a fight that I feel like could go either way, but I feel like Daniel Lacerda just doesn't have the proper game plan. He always comes out and just explodes like crazy. He's only 27 years old, but so is Cháirez. But Cháirez, I feel like, fights a little bit with a little bit better fight IQ, where Lacerda just comes out and looks to take your head off. This is a fight I feel like could go either way. But what I think is going to happen, I think Cháirez has a little bit better technical striking. I think he's going to clip Lacerda on the feet. I think Lacerda is going to look for a takedown. And I'm going to call Edgar Cháirez first round guillotine. The guillotine that he was searching for so desperately in his last fight, I think he's going to find in the first round. I'll say late first round guillotine for Edgar Cháirez. 6 of his 10 wins are via submission. I think he gets it done first round submission against Daniel Lacerda. Moving up on the card, a fight that I'm actually looking forward to, Roman Kopylov versus Josh Fremd. Roman Kopylov has looked like an interesting contender in the division, in the middleweight division. I know Joe Rogan doesn't know what division he's in, but I wish this was a different fight. I forgot who Kopylov was originally supposed to fight here, but Josh Fremd, I feel like, is kind of a sacrificial lamb. I'm going to go Roman Kopylov first round KO. I think he gets it done here. I don't think this is a super competitive fight, but I am very excited to see how Kopylov looks, because he just looks like he could be a future contender in the middleweight division. His striking looks very technical. He has great body kicks. His last fight absolutely destroyed Claudio Hibirio, destroyed him with a nasty head kick, was lighting him up with body kicks. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's 32 years old. He's probably coming into his prime, where you have Josh Fremd, who's eking out a clinch fest decision against Jamie Pickett. I can't pick Josh Fremd at all. And before that, he beats Cedriquez Dumas, which we all know how good Dumas is. He's not that great. And then before that, losing to Tresean Gore, losing to Anthony Hernandez. I think Kopylov, too technical in the feet, too good in the grappling exchanges as well. Great kicks, great body kicks from southpaw, switches stances, great head kicks, great jab, great hands, very technical. And I just think Josh Fremd's going to have to grapple, and he's not going to have any success. So I'm going to go Roman Kopylov, first round body kick TKO. He's going to drop him with a nasty body kick, swarm him with like 2 follow-up punches, and finish him with ground and pound. I just think Kopylov is too good for Josh Fremd. Moving up on the card, we have Lupita Godinez versus Elise Reed. Lupi Godinez on a 2-fight winning streak, beat Emily Ducote in their last fight, beat Cynthia Calvillo in the fight before that, which was kind of controversial. It was a split decision win. Before that has a loss to Angela Hill, which isn't a very good loss in MMA, but fair enough. Angela Hill gets it done there. Elise Reed won her last fight against Jinyu Frey, but was getting out-grappled early in that fight. Fight before that, lost to Boom. I don't even remember how to pronounce her name, but lost to Luma via rear naked choke. Before that, got a win over Melissa Martinez. Elise Reed's just kind of mediocre everywhere. She has okay grappling, okay striking, and you never know which version of her is going to show up, but she never looks particularly elite, where I feel like Lupita Godinez is consistently improving. She has good cardio. She has good wrestling. She has good pressure. Her hands are getting better. I'm going to go Lupita Godinez via decision. I think she's going to get it done. I'm actually going to say 30-27 decision. She has no finishes via KO or TKO, so it's not like she has this crazy finishing ability, but I don't think Elise Reed, I don't know how she would win this fight, because she's going to have to outstrike her on the feet. I don't think she's going to take her down. I think Godinez is just going to walk her down, beat her up with shots. I think she's improving, and I think she gets it done via 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card, the first fight on the main card, Fernando Padilla versus Knutsson. This is actually a very interesting matchup. Padilla in his last fight went out there and just brutalized Julian Erosa. Looked very good in that fight. Looked super accurate. Had crazy KO power in that matchup. It was a little bit early, but he in the ref's defense, he kind of flashed KO'd Erosa. He went face down. Erosa got back up. He started smashing him again. And then as Erosa was circling it out, the ref had already made the decision to step in. But either way, Padilla looked very good, looked very fast, super accurate with his hands. Knutsson wants to strike. He's a kickboxer, but he's kind of slow. And I just don't know in this fight, how is he going to find Padilla? Knutsson got a win over Blake Bilder in his last fight. Bilder doesn't have the best striking himself and was landing good shots in the first round, pumping the jab. I think Padilla is going to be too much for Knutsson. I'm going to go Fernando Padilla, second round TKO. I just think he has good power. I think Knutsson's good, but he's just a little bit too slow, and he likes to strike. It's not like he has the grappling in his back pocket. And I just think in this fight, he's just going to be too slow. He's going to be a step behind. I could see Padilla just winning by decision. It's not like Knutsson's getting finished left and right. He fought, the last time he got finished was over 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago against Billy Q. But, I just think Padilla will find that shot. I think he'll beat him up. I think it'll be a combination of just landing shots nonstop, an accumulation of damage. And I think eventually in that second round, he's going to find a nasty shot and the ref's going to step in and it's going to be a TKO win for Padilla in the second round. Moving up on the card, we have Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Giagos. This is a fight that honestly I feel it could go either way. I flipped and flopped back and forth on who I was picking in this fight because Daniel Zellhuber has been kind of hit or miss. He almost finished Lando Venata in the first round of their fight. Then Lando Venata kind of fought his way back into the fight, but it was still a clear Zellhuber win. But the fight before that lost to Trey Ogden. It was just kind of just chilling there, being inactive and not really doing much. Came off of Dana White's Contender Series, got a win there, got hurt badly in that fight as well, but came back and won. Giagos in his last fight KO'd rookie Glenn, but what does that really mean? Fight before that, lost to Thiago Moises, rear naked choke. Fight before that, got absolutely demolished by Arman Tsarukyan. But one thing I noted in that fight, and that was 2 years ago, got a takedown on Arman Tsarukyan. So I wonder how Zellhuber's grappling is. We really haven't seen it tested too much. And I think that Giagos could go out there and really just shoot in on takedowns, control him. Giagos closes the distance with big, massive strikes. He could clip him and KO him, could mix in the grappling. But ultimately, I think Daniel Zellhuber, just a little bit more technical. I think he's super fast, has good cardio. Even, I thought he was going to gas out after he was destroying Lando Venata in the first round. Did not gas out, threw a lot of shots looking for the finish. Caught him with a flying knee. Very dynamic, very technical, high guard. I just think Giagos, I don't know if he's skilled enough to be able to beat Zellhuber, but there is a very good chance. I'm not super confident in this pick, but I'm going to go Daniel Zellhuber. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. Maybe Giagos just kind of ekes out maybe a round with some grappling, and it's kind of close on the feet, lands a couple good shots. But ultimately, I think Zellhuber is going to win this pretty comfortably on the feet. Moving up on the card, the featured fight on the card, we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Terrence Mitchell. This is an easy pick. I'm going Raul Rosas Jr. via first round submission. I'm going to say a rear naked choke for Raul Rosas Jr. This is a setup fight for him. This is genuinely a setup fight for him. I don't see how Terrence Mitchell gets it done. Got dominated by Cameron Simon in his last fight. He came in on short notice for that fight, so we do have to give him a little bit of credit for that. But prior to that, he's fighting in an Alaskan fight organization, fighting guys that aren't that particularly good. It's hard to find fight footage of him. He's 33 years old, where you have Raul, who's 18 years old. The grappling, even in the Christian Rodriguez fight, he lost his last fight against Christian Rodriguez, kind of gassed himself out grappling in that first round, and then ended up losing the second and third round. Couldn't find that submission. He likes to just bulldoze ahead, get a takedown, look for a submission, and then if he can't find it, he's kind of in trouble. But you looked at the fight before that against Jay Perrin, he was able to do that. And I don't think Terrence Mitchell is even as good as Jay Perrin. So I think Raul Rosas Jr. going to conserve his energy a little bit more, but I think he's going to come out, look for that takedown early. I think he'll find it early. I think he'll get the back. I think he'll get the hooks in. And I think he will find a rear naked choke. I do worry about his striking. I do worry about his cardio. He is only 18 years old. But I don't think Terrence Mitchell, a guy who's 33 years old, a guy who hasn't really fought the best level of competition. You're looking at opponents before the UFC, 4-1, 4-2, 3-3, a guy who didn't even have a record, and he hasn't been super active. You're looking, over the last 8 years, he's had 5 fights, so he's not super active. I know that Raul is relatively inexperienced, only 7-1. But I think he's going to learn a lot from the loss. I think the jiu-jitsu is really good. And I think in the first round, I'm going to say late first round, rear naked choke for Raul Rosas Jr. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, and one of my favorite fights on the card, Kevin Holland versus Della Maddalena. This should have been on UFC 293. It's a shame that it was not on 293. But this is a very tough fight to pick because I feel like Della Maddalena got exposed a bit in his last fight against Basil Hafez. I thought Hafez won that fight. It was very close, but I thought he won the fight. Got out grappled, got lit up on the feet. He had moments of his own, and it was a close fight. I don't think it was a complete robbery, but I do think Hafez won that fight. But Kevin Holland doesn't have the threat of the grappling, but he does have good power. He does have good range. He has a significant reach advantage. He has an 8-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage over Della Maddalena. And Maddalena is a very good boxer, and now he doesn't have to worry about the threat of the takedown. So that's what makes this fight kind of hard to pick. I picked Kevin Holland in his last fight. I picked him by Darce choke against Michael Chiesa. He went out there, was lighting Chiesa up on the feet. Chiesa shot for a desperation takedown, got Darce choked. I picked him against Santiago Ponzinibbio, where Della Maddalena still hasn't really got that steep test. The best guy he's fought to this day is Randy Brown. He went out there and smashed him on the feet and found a rear naked choke. But I feel like Kevin Holland is a much tougher test than anyone Della Maddalena's fought. And I do think that this is one of those fights that could go either way. I do remember back when Joaquin Buckley stepped in on short notice against Kevin Holland, was landing some decent shots, eventually got KO'd himself. I think that Kevin Holland, with that reach advantage, with that height advantage, I think he's going to bust Della Maddalena up on the feet. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, but I think Kevin Holland gets it done. I'm going to go Kevin Holland via decision. I think it's going to be a close, competitive fight, but I think Kevin Holland's clearly going to win. I talk about it all the time. There can be fights that are competitive that we have a clear winner. So I'm going to say 29-28 for Holland, but I think he's going to be pumping the jab. I think he's going to be landing the straight punches. Meanwhile, you're going to see Della Maddalena kind of charging forward, throwing hooks. And this is in a main arena, so we're going to have the full-size cage. So Kevin Holland will be able to use his footwork. And also, I think Holland has the grappling advantage. I think if it goes to the ground, Holland has a jiu-jitsu advantage. So I could also see, and I almost picked it, I could also see Kevin Holland rocking Della Maddalena on the feet, and then maybe finding a guillotine, maybe finding a Darce choke or an anaconda choke. But I think Della Maddalena, I think he's durable enough where he's not going to get KO'd. And I think he'll be able to avoid the submission of Kevin Holland unless he gets rocked really badly. But I just think I can't see him, after watching him going life and death with Basil Hafez, I can't see him going out there and just destroying Kevin Holland. I think that Kevin Holland gets it done over Della Maddalena. I think he just beats him up with the straight punches, pumping the jabs, circling around. And maybe Kevin Holland initiates the grappling and maybe he's too prideful and doesn't hold him down. Maybe he's losing in the boxing exchanges, but I just don't see that happening. The length is too much. The height is too much. I see Jack Della Maddalena ripping to the body quite a bit and trying to chop the legs, but I think Kevin Holland will get it done. I'm going Kevin Holland via decision, 29-28. Moving up on the card, the main event, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2. I've been basically picking Valentina Shevchenko in this fight since it was announced. We already knew it was going to happen after UFC 285, but I rewatched the original fight from back at UFC 285, and it had me really questioning my pick because that fight was actually way more competitive than I remember. The first round was very close. Grasso won the first round. She did more damage on the feet. Second and third round were close, but they were clearly Valentina Shevchenko because she just kind of outstruck her a little bit, but then she also had some takedowns and some ground control and some ground damage. And then the fourth round, Grasso was winning and stuffing takedowns up until the point that Shevchenko spun and got her back taken. So even if Grasso didn't finish her in that fourth round, and I don't remember what the judges' scorecards were exactly, but even if Grasso doesn't finish her in the fourth round, it's probably 2-2 heading into the fifth with all the momentum in Grasso's favor. But I really think this is one of those cases where the champion really underestimated the challenger. I think Valentina Shevchenko, she started to plateau. She started to kind of be burned out. She didn't take Alexa Grasso seriously. And Grasso came in there and overperformed, and Valentina Shevchenko came out there and underperformed. And this is a fight where I really think if Alexa Grasso, let's say she just really, and I think she did, really trained her grappling nonstop. If she can be comfortable on the feet by stuffing the takedowns at will and not being worried about the takedown, it's going to be a rough night for Valentina Shevchenko because Grasso has better boxing. But I think you'll see a Valentina Shevchenko that comes out. I think she's not underestimating Grasso. I think she's going to be mixing in the takedowns. The takedowns came pretty easy for her in the early rounds in the first fight. And I think also the kicking game of Shevchenko was very good in the first fight as well. She was landing good leg kicks, good body kicks. She clipped her with a head kick at one point in time, I think in the first round. And I think Shevchenko is going to come out with a much better game plan, a much better appreciation for the skill level of Alexa Grasso. And, you know, I think she's going to get it done. I'm going to go Valentina Shevchenko. I don't know how many rounds. I'm going to say 3-2. So what is that, 48-47? I'm going to go Valentina Shevchenko 48-47. I think it's going to be another competitive fight like the first one. It wasn't a complete blowout like a lot of people remember. I think Grasso has some moments, but I think Valentina Shevchenko going to come in. She looked horrible. I mean, I don't want to say she looked horrible in the last fight, but she looked very flat-footed. She looked very complacent. She wasn't throwing a whole lot of kicks, even though they were successful. I don't think she'll make that mistake this time around. But I do worry because Grasso was so close to her skill level in the last fight. Valentina Shevchenko is 35, going on 36. I talk about it all the time. At a drop of a hat, at a snap of a finger, these champions start to decline. And maybe this is the beginning of Valentina Shevchenko's decline. It's tough for me to pick her at almost 36 years old coming off a loss. And then you look at Alexa Grasso, she's getting better. She's only 30 years old. And then you look at Shevchenko's last fight before the Grasso fight, arguably lost to Talia Santos. So I do worry about Valentina Shevchenko in this fight, but I think she's going to use her kickboxing. I think she's going to use her grappling. And I think she'll be more active on the ground. There was times, I think it was in the third round, where she's just laying in guard, not doing a whole lot. Herb Dean or whoever the ref was, I think it was Herb Dean, stood him up because she wasn't being super active. So honestly, she deserved to lose that fight. I don't think it was a fluke. I think it was pretty competitive, but I think Valentina Shevchenko makes the necessary adjustments and gets it done, wins via decision, wins 3 rounds to 2, 48-47 for Valentina Shevchenko. There's going to be kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, a lot of footwork from Valentina. She's going to be pumping the jab. She had a lot of success with that as well. And I think Alexa Grasso really has to just put it on her with the boxing. And if you see early Grasso just stuffing takedowns and getting super confident on the feet, it's going to be over for Valentina Shevchenko, because if you have a Grasso that's not worried about takedowns at all, she's going to be lighting her up on the feet, because in the first fight, she started to get a little bit worried about the takedowns. But as the fight went on, late third round, early fourth round, she started to get a little bit more confident stuffing the takedowns. But I think in that first fight, Shevchenko just underestimated her, and then it kind of caught her off guard. She did a spinning technique, and Grasso just capitalized on the opportunity, sunk in the hook, sunk in the rear naked choke, got it done. but I think Shevchenko takes back the women's flyweight title at UFC Fight Night Noche. I think she gets it done and she becomes a 2-time women's flyweight champion. Let me know what you guys think of the predictions down in the comments. Who are you picking in the main event? Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.